Death masks are historical artifacts made by creating a lifelike replica of a deceased person's features. The process of creating a death mask involves several steps. First, the deceased person's face was cleaned and prepared. Then, a mold was made of the individual's face using plaster. Once the mold was set, molten wax was poured into it. After the wax cooled and hardened, the mold was removed, leaving a detailed wax replica of the person's face. This practice was particularly common in Europe from the 16th to the 19th century, although it has been around since ancient Egypt. Death masks served several purposes. They were often used to create portraits of deceased individuals, especially for those who were notable or wealthy. The most famous of those is the death mask of Napoleon Bonaparte. The making of his death mask ran into a few problems. The doctors who were in attendance when Napoleon died had never made a death mask before. Second, the island where Napoleon was exiled on, there wasn't any plaster on hand. The first attempt at making the mask had failed when the doctors tried to make plaster out of plaster statues. In the second attempt, Dr. Francis Burton had managed to get a hold of some gypsum, the raw ingredient in plaster. The gypsum was then ground into a powder. The powder was then heated. This accomplished two things. The heat dehydrated the powder and helped break down the crystals within the rock. When water was added back to the powder, it formed a paste. As the plaster dries, the crystals reform, helping the plaster maintain its new shape. The second attempt worked, although Napoleon was long dead by this time. Other death masks of famous people include Oliver Cromwell. The Lord Protector of England's death mask is another well-known example, providing a detailed record of his appearance. Maximilien Robespierre, the French revolutionary's death mask, is a stark reminder of his tumultuous life and violent end. And Isaac Newton. Newton, who was an English physicist and mathematician, was a key figure in the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment that followed. These masks could be used as models for sculptors or painters to create more accurate likenesses. Additionally, they were sometimes kept as mementos by family members. At times, death masks offer a glimpse into the appearance of historical figures for whom no other visual records exist, such as the unknown woman of the Seine. This unidentified young woman who was found drowned in the Seine River in Paris around the late 1880s. The mask was created by a morgue worker who was so struck by her beauty that he felt compelled to preserve it. The cast was described as having a bewitching and tranquil expression, with few signs of distress, and was compared to the Mona Lisa and other famous works of art. Her face was used for the head of the first aid mannequin Resuscitation, considered to be one of the most kissed faces in the world. During the 18th and 19th centuries, death masks were used not only to keep a record of the faces of unknown bodies, but also including those of criminals. Criminals like William Burke and his partner William Hare. The pair killed 16 people in Edinburgh in 1827. They disposed of the bodies by selling the corpses of their victims to Dr. Robert Knox, who dissected the bodies as a part of his anatomy lessons. In a strange twist of karma, after Burke was hung for his crimes, souvenirs were made from various parts of his body. One of those grisly souvenirs was a calling card case. The case was handed down to the family of Percy Hughes from Dr. Hobbs. Percy Hughes is a descendant of one of the surgeons involved in William Burke's dissection. While death masks are historically significant, they can also be seen as macabre or morbid. Perhaps the most unsettling death mask was made by Ed Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield. Ed Gein was a convicted murderer and body snatcher who, amongst other things, created grotesque masks made from human skin. Some people find the idea of creating a lifelike replica of a deceased person's face unsettling, while others appreciate the historical and artistic value they provide. One of the most beautiful masks ever created was that of King Tut, or Tutankhamun. King Tut was an Egyptian pharaoh who ruled from approximately 1332 to 1323 BC. His mask is made out of gold and inlaid with lapis lazuli around the eye and eyebrows. Quartz was used for the eyes and obsidian for the pupils. Different semi-precious stones were used in the broad collar part of the mask that include carnelian, amazonite, turquoise, and faience. The use of wax death masks started to decline with the rise of photography in the 19th century, which allowed for a more accurate and less morbid way of preserving likenesses. However, the tradition continued in some areas, particularly in the form of wax figures created for museums, like Madame Tussauds. While macabre, these masks remain a testament to the fascination with death and the lengths to which people have gone to preserve their memories and study the human body. Today, many of these masks are stored in museums and are regarded as eerie but captivating historical relics.